we know that we're standing between you and lunch today, so we'll keep it super crisp. Sir, we're honored to have you today. And I think in the academic community, you're someone we really want to hear from today. So starting off, I would like to take a note from our chief guest's morning's speech today with greater quantity. I think the quality is in question, was the accusation rather. Do you care to say anything about that? Scale and quality.
First of all, thank you for inviting me for this session. As you rightly said, in the last decades or so, we are trying to address this ambidexterity in our system. At one end, we want to increase the cross-enrollment ratio that we have set some targets now. On the other hand, we also have the challenges of not being able to produce graduates who are employable and who are rightly mainstreamed into the society. So this problem is continuing. As in that context, improving quality of education is very important. Although through accreditation and through ranking, and we are attempting to do improve the quality through some processes, we are yet to achieve anything significantly.
So I think today we have to address, I think part of the title of our session is about the Gen Z, the new learners. Are our quality paradigms evolving to serve the needs of the Gen Z, sir?
I think we are, our society, our youth is transitioning. We had the Gen Z, predominantly those who are already got into the higher education. The Gen Alpha, which is likely to come into higher education in the years from now. And both these generations are completely new from different generations, the earlier generations. And these are globally, culturally aware, and they are very well aware of their goals, and they are digital natives, and there are many characteristics of these young population. And the Gen Alpha population is just going through, and AI is impacting their main education system. And for them, what is the kind of student experience that we can provide, and what kind of outcomes that we can generate for them? And I think the higher education system is still figuring out how do we define that student experience, and how do we set certain outcomes for these students. On the other hand, the Gen Z, or which has already gotten into the industry, are struggling with the impact of AI again. And there we are looking at reskilling, upskilling, and cross-skilling. And our educational institutions have a bigger responsibility to address that as well. And in this process, what we need to really bring in is flexibility in the way that we offer education to our students. And it includes the way we look at the curriculum is designed, and how the credit transfers can happen, and how things like stackable micro-credentials that can get incorporated into the curriculum. And the real flexibility is about allowing students to pick up wherever there are courses, wherever there are capabilities, competencies that they can build, and also to recognize prior learning into the system. These are all some of the trends that our higher education system has to adopt to improve the quality.
Right. I think taking a cue from that, we are talking about greater autonomy and greater freedom and degree granting institutions in the NEP. What exactly are institutions expected to do to achieve greater autonomy and to go forward?
Yeah. I think drawing from our Honorable Governor's address this morning, both NEP as well as the Viksit Bharat Shiksha Azistan Bill 2025 completely focus on institutional autonomy. And this autonomy is in terms of administrative autonomy, financial autonomy, and academic autonomy. And when the bill is passed in Parliament in an act, I'm sure that in the next 8 to 12 months, we can see the change wherein the institutions which go through accreditation, of course, the graded accreditation to graded autonomy. Okay, the autonomy is not going to be given just like that. You need to have fulfill certain level of requirements through accreditation and then get your autonomy. That autonomy, as you said, the degree granting institutions, colleges, and you can look at increasing your intake, and you can decide your curriculum, and you can decide your campuses outside the country. Some of these, which are being regulated very severely, will become free. And I am sure that the higher education system will transform through this process of autonomy.
Great, sir. I think we all look forward to that kind of a scenario. There's also a lot of talk about rationalization of NAAC, NBA, NIRF, and the various accreditation boards that we have. I know that is not something that you can discuss a lot publicly, but whatever we can understand, what is in motion for us with regard to the new bill and the rationalization of the three different quality accreditation areas, sir?
I think I'm not sure whether the bill is really talking about rationalization of these. It is talking about bringing three verticals, and one of the verticals is going to be NAC, National Accreditation Council, under which the program accreditation, institutional accreditation, and ranking, all the three will fall under this particular vertical. I think fundamentally we need to understand what NAAC does or what NBA does is rating. NBA does program accreditation rating, and NAAC does institutional rating. The NIRF is obviously different, it ranks the institutions. Now, if you look at rating, then obviously we are looking at improving our institutions over a period of time. And the two of the frameworks that we are going to launch, the maturity-based graded levels, allows the institutions from moving to one level to the other, up to 5 levels, by character-wise and profile-wise. Accordingly, we expect that our institutions over a period of time will become global institutions. Ranking on the other side is looking at, from an outcome perspective, from how to link higher education with industry and society and so on. We are looking at how do we do that. Because NIRF was launched to prepare our own institutions to global ranking. To an extent, we have achieved that we are now able to see a sizable number of institutions getting into global ranking. But I think we are not going to rationalize this, but there are two different things that we are doing. The only thing is that we are looking at outcomes as the basis for accreditation in the time to come. I think we may merge the program accreditation and institutional accreditation, which is already there in the NEP as well as the bill, because both are complementary to each other. And but on the other hand, the ranking will continue to be different.
I think I asked this because one of the major concerns of faculty members across the geography is the amount of the burden that they have to take up during these cycles. So I think almost 6 months of a lot of our work and everything goes towards the accreditation time. I mean, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it does definitely take a toll on the faculty members, especially with the data, the heavy data intensity of these things, where we end up giving the same data to multiple boards. Is there a way of simplifying these things way forward, sir?
There are two answers to the questions. The first one is, traditionally our institutions are not good at managing data. Okay? So whenever accreditation comes, then you start looking for data. If data is not available, you produce the data. Okay? Or if you can't produce the data, you ask someone else to come and produce the data. Okay? So this is how the system is working. And coming from NIT Trichy, for example, I was handling NIRF ranking for 5 years before I became a director of another institution and then as a director of NAAC, you need to have a very systematic approach. You need to have IT-based systems, and you need to capture data at source. Meaning, if somebody is conducting a seminar or a conference in your institution, and you need to capture the data at that point, and the file will not move unless otherwise that data is captured. Now what happens? You complete all that activities for 3 years, 5 years. At the end of 5 years, you start looking at where is this data. Okay, that's where we fail. When having said that, now in the new methodologies, we are trying to simplify this to an extent. Our accreditation cycle for basic accreditation is going to be only for 3 years. 3 years data and 3 years validity. And we are also trying to help institutions with some sort of a tools through which they can collect data and submit. Of course, many of the colleges and universities have started using Samrat as a software, ERP software developed by Delhi University, which is supported by the Government of India. And you can look at any other solution which will help you to capture this data, okay, so that this job can be done easily.
Great, sir. I think we would all open, I mean, you know, very welcome this with open hands if we can bring this simplicity. One other point that, you know, this I might be biased in asking this since I represent a private institution. Do you think there is parity between private and public institutions when it come into accreditation and ranking for that matter? Do you think it is the current scenario is correct, or do you think some changes have to be made?
I think for us, every institution is same. We don't differentiate publicly funded institution or privately funded institution, although we are a Government of India entity. But I mean, we need to also accept the fact that the private university or private college system has really contributed to improving the GER and to improve to an extent research and development and community engagements and all that. But if you ask me today, private university system is really sort of escalated our reputation by giving the first page advertisement in newspapers, A+ grade or A++ grade and so on. And a lot of people came to know about, oh, there is something called NAAC and the accredited institutions and so on. And to be on the other side, there are private institutions which brought down our image also, on the other hand. And because of your own, you know, not so good practices in handling the accreditation process, or the way that you understood the accreditation, the private university system has brought down our image as well. And going to the point that we said, we today cannot have a single framework for all the institutions. And we are a large country, and you have talking about 1,200 universities and 50,000 colleges, and there is a lot of heterogeneity and diversity. And if you have read through Dr. Rajalakshmi committee report, it clearly talks about how do we handle this heterogeneity. The heterogeneity is in terms of specializations, looking at institutions dealing with legal education, medical education, teacher education, skill education, and so on. Heterogeneity is also due to the nature of institutions or the disciplines or the kind of things that they do. Look at, there are institutions which are research focused. There are institutions teaching focused. There are institutions community focused. The last one is very important, the institutions which are located in rural, remote areas of our country. 40% of our institutions are located in tier 2, tier 3 rural, remote, hilly areas. Now, the one size does fit all approach won't work. Therefore, even in the basic accreditation, we are looking at 27 variations. The manual will have 27 variations to accommodate this diversity. And one of the diversity is obviously the public funded institution and private funded institution. To just look at an example, today we talk about funding. All government institutions get funding. And if I ask a question around the funding, the government institutions will obviously score better, whereas the private institutions won't. Look at something else like reservation. Okay, government institutions are required to adopt reservations for community in admission and faculty recruitment and so on. But whereas private institutions are not mandated to follow accreditation. Probably look at faculty retention. In government institutions, faculty join, they never leave. And in the private institution, it is very difficult to hold on to faculty. If another institution pays 10,000 rupees more month on month, then obviously the faculty will switch. So faculty retention will suffer there. So we are also very conscious of these differences of public institutions and private institutions, and our frameworks will accommodate those differences.
Great, sir. So I think I'll come to the last part of my question is what are we going to do to get in tune with the global accreditation institutions like NABET or even QS ranking systems and stuff like that, which also now have become important for Indian institutions to apply for and be part of that global framework?
If you look at global accreditation, the ABET or something that you are talking about is more to do with program accreditation.
Yes.
And we are looking at institutional accreditation. Bharat, for whatever reason, we are largely moving out of the global practices because of our size and diversity, and we are not able to adopt those best practices as of today. And if you look at a top agency like Quality Assurance Agency, QAAA in UK, with the accredited institution in about 80 countries in the world. And they are looking at what they call as principle-based accreditation. Okay? Meaning that they look at data, they look at the information that you provide for accreditation, but then they don't look at the way that we look at institution through a data angle. Okay, everything is data driven. I mean, we are not looking at anything beyond data. The second one is trust. When institutions submit certain documents and data and artifacts for as input for accreditation, and that is 100% true. In both accounts of the principle-based approach versus data-based approach and the trust basis that we have, and we have a issue in trust. So therefore, we are not, as of today, able to adopt those best practices. But then, in the time to come, we are signing an MOU with the QAA on 17th March in Delhi. And we are going to work with QAA in fine-tuning our frameworks. And also there is a proposal that we will use international experts who are involved in such organizations to be part of our peer teams and other committees, so that over a period of time, you'll be able to incorporate such best practices.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. At the end of our session, if you would have any parting words for academic institutions to take up, follow, and so that we can grow up in better quality standards.
Okay. There is only one thing that I want to say. It is about trust. Okay. So, with a lot of debate in the new accreditation framework, we are going to ask you, the institutions, to sign a sort of affidavit. The affidavit says that all the data that is submitted by the institution as part of this accreditation process is true, correct, valid, and so on. Second, we also want a declaration from the institutions that the data is gathered, validated, submitted by the staff of that institution, and no external agency is involved in doing that. This affidavit, that is the mandatory requirement at the beginning of the process, and if there is a violation, there is something found to be, the NAAC can take up criminal proceedings against the institution. This affidavit we are going to take. This is just to sort of deter, the whole thing. But the challenge here is how do you submit data for accreditation? And all of us collectively working on improving the higher education quality. And you are the primary players in the whole thing. We are only an accrediting body, right? You are only obviously delivering education, and you should be worried about the quality of education that you are offering to the students. Therefore, you have a bigger responsibility of doing this. But We are also looking at, following the trend, we are looking at AI in a big way. We are looking at, we have already started working, we are doing POCs on this, where we are looking at using AI in verification of documents. Okay. And we are also looking at, after all, the quality is judged by its stakeholders. So we are bringing a concept called stakeholder crowdsourcing, data validation, through which your institution and your stakeholders will be able to provide insight that will be used as part of the accreditation. There again, we are largely going to depend on AI to do that.
Great, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I think this was a very informative session, and we hope to see these new things come up soon. Thank you, sir.